In the 12th century, the Holy Land was a patchwork of kingdoms, fortresses, deserts, and cities, all intertwined with the ambitions, faith, and fears of men and women who believed they were shaping destiny itself. At the heart of this tumult stood the Kingdom of Jerusalem, a fragile realm carved out by the Crusaders and constantly threatened by powerful neighbors. Its young king, Baldwin IV, ascended the throne as a boy, already burdened with the cruel and debilitating disease of leprosy. Many expected him to falter, yet Baldwin's mind was sharp, his resolve unyielding, and his understanding of war and politics far beyond his years. Even as his body betrayed him, he became a symbol of courage and ingenuity, a king whose intellect and bravery would leave an indelible mark on history. Far to the south, rising in power and reputation, was Saladin, known to his followers as Saladin. A man of faith, honor, and extraordinary patience, Saladin unified Egypt and Syria under his command, forging an army disciplined, loyal, and strategically minded. Unlike many rulers who relied on brute force, Saladin meticulously planned every campaign, studied his enemies, and used psychological insight to weaken them before a single sword was drawn. His vision was simple yet ambitious: reclaim Jerusalem for Islam, establish his legitimacy as a leader, and leave a legacy that would endure for generations. The first major confrontation between these two titans came at Montgisard in 1177. Saladin commanded roughly 20,000 men, an army experienced, confident, and eager to crush the Crusader forces. Baldwin, barely 16, had fewer than 1,000 knights and a small force of infantry, many inexperienced and untested in the chaos of battle. His advisors warned him that engaging Saladin directly would be suicidal. Yet Baldwin saw opportunity where others saw despair. Using intelligence reports, scouts, and intimate knowledge of the local terrain, he positioned his forces in the narrow valleys near Montgisard, creating ambush points and choke points that would magnify the impact of his smaller army. At dawn, the battle erupted. The air was thick with dust, the clatter of hooves, the clash of steel, and the cries of men. Baldwin, riding despite the weakness caused by his leprosy, led the charge personally, inspiring his troops. His knights struck at Saladin's flanks, sowing confusion, while infantry coordinated to block the enemy's retreat. Hours passed with fierce combat, and though Baldwin's forces were vastly outnumbered, strategic positioning and surprise attacks caused Saladin's army to falter. Eventually, Saladin was forced to retreat, and Baldwin's victory at Montgisard became legendary. Not merely a triumph of arms, it was a triumph of mind, courage, and audacity. In the years following Montgisard, Baldwin engaged in a series of skirmishes, raids, and defensive maneuvers that showcased his genius. At Beaver Castle, he anticipated Saladin's movements and launched night raids to disrupt supply lines. In narrow passes, he transformed natural terrain into deadly traps, neutralizing the enemy's numerical advantage. Baldwin's body continued to weaken, yet his mind remained sharp, each decision measured, each maneuver calculated. His life became a study in balancing physical limitation with intellectual mastery, a living testament to the power of strategy over brute force. Jerusalem itself, however, was a kingdom under constant pressure, not only from external enemies, but from internal divisions. Baldwin had no heir, and his nephew Baldwin V was too young to rule alone. Noble factions, particularly those surrounding Guy de Lusignan, maneuvered for power, creating a fragile political environment. Baldwin's efforts were not limited to battlefields. He tirelessly worked to maintain unity, negotiate alliances, and ensure the kingdom's survival. He understood that the strength of Jerusalem depended not only on soldiers and walls, but also on loyalty, diplomacy, and the perception of legitimacy. Saladin, ever the strategist, observed Baldwin's moves with respect and caution. He adjusted his campaigns, probing weaknesses, disrupting supply chains, and waiting patiently. He knew Baldwin was a rare adversary, physically frail but intellectually formidable, morally steadfast, and capable of inspiring unwavering loyalty. Saladin's own philosophy of leadership emphasized patience, long-term planning, and ethical conduct. He avoided unnecessary cruelty, understanding that the hearts of the people and the morale of his troops were as important as victories on the battlefield. By 1185, Baldwin's health had deteriorated severely. He passed away at 24, leaving Jerusalem in the hands of Guy de Lusignan, a leader lacking the strategic insight of Baldwin IV. The kingdom's defenses were strained, internal divisions widened, and Saladin recognized the opportunity to achieve what Baldwin had so cleverly delayed, a decisive strike that could reshape the region. The stage was set for the Battle of Hattin in 1187, a confrontation that would determine the fate of Jerusalem. Saladin's forces, disciplined and well-positioned, confronted the Crusader army near the Sea of Galilee. The Crusaders, weakened by heat, thirst, and poor coordination, struggled to maintain formations. Baldwin's tactical brilliance could no longer compensate for the deficiencies of leadership after his death. Saladin's forces encircled the Crusaders, cutting off access to water, and struck with devastating precision. Horses faltered, knights fought desperately, and the air was thick with smoke, dust, and the cries of men. By the end of the day, the Crusader army was annihilated, marking a turning point in the Crusades. Jerusalem would soon fall, its walls opening to Saladin's forces, and the city's fate was irrevocably changed. Yet the story of Baldwin IV is not one of defeat. His life demonstrated the extraordinary capacity of human courage and intellect. Despite his leprosy, he led armies, inspired loyalty, and delayed the fall of Jerusalem for years. His legacy is a lesson in resilience, that the mind can triumph over the body, that moral strength can shape history, and that true leadership lies in vision, courage, and unwavering commitment to duty. Saladin, for his part, respected Baldwin deeply, acknowledging the young king as a worthy adversary. Their lives were intertwined, their battles and strategies leaving a mark on history that continues to be studied, revered, and remembered. Beyond the battlefield, Baldwin's court was a theater of diplomacy and intrigue. Envoys from neighboring kingdoms arrived seeking alliances, negotiating trade, and pledging military support. Baldwin skillfully balanced these interactions, recognizing that political strength could amplify military power. He maintained correspondence with European monarchs, requested reinforcements, and managed resources with a careful eye, understanding that every decision could influence the survival of his kingdom. Saladin, aware of these dynamics, often employed diplomacy alongside military strategy, securing loyalties and neutralizing threats without drawing his sword. The human dimension of their conflict is as compelling as the military. Baldwin, despite pain and deterioration, displayed wit, humor, and compassion. He comforted wounded soldiers, attended religious ceremonies, and engaged with citizens to boost morale. Saladin, similarly, demonstrated personal discipline, religious devotion, and ethical conduct, emphasizing that leadership required both action and example. Their encounters, even when indirect, reflect a mutual understanding that history is shaped not only by battles, but by character, strategy, and vision. Throughout their campaigns, both leaders demonstrated a profound understanding of psychology and perception. Baldwin used ambushes, feigned retreats, and misinformation to confuse Saladin's forces. Saladin employed scouts, intelligence networks, and careful observation to anticipate Baldwin's moves. Both understood that war was as much a contest of wits and willpower as it was of swords and shields. Their encounters became legendary, studied by later military minds, not merely for tactics, but for insight into leadership, decision-making, and the art of command under extreme pressure. As the Crusader kingdom weakened after Baldwin's death, Saladin's influence grew. His capture of Jerusalem was not a moment of mindless triumph. It was the culmination of years of careful planning, patience, and ethical conduct. He treated conquered populations with relative restraint, avoiding unnecessary slaughter, and ensured that the city's religious and cultural significance was respected. Baldwin's earlier leadership, though it could not prevent the ultimate fall, had delayed conquest long enough to shape the context in which Saladin's victory will be remembered as both inevitable and honorable. Even today, the legacy of Baldwin IV and Saladin resonates. Their lives illustrate the power of intellect, strategy, and moral courage. Baldwin's struggle against leprosy while leading a kingdom offers a timeless lesson in perseverance, focus, and vision. Saladin's patient, calculated rise demonstrates the impact of discipline, faith, and ethical leadership in achieving monumental goals. Together, their stories reveal that history is crafted not only by force, but by vision, character, and the interplay of strategy and human will. In the valleys, mountains, and cities where they fought, every stone, every battlefield, and every fortress holds echoes of their struggle. Baldwin IV, the Leper King, may have succumbed to illness, yet his brilliance prolonged the life of a kingdom. Saladin, the Sultan, may have captured Jerusalem, yet his respect for Baldwin ensured that their legacies remain intertwined. Their story is a saga of courage, intellect, morality, and humanity. A tale of two extraordinary men whose lives, though brief, shaped the destiny of a region and left an enduring imprint on history. The Holy Land of the 12th century was not merely a backdrop for battles. It was a crucible in which faith, ambition, strategy, and character were tested to their limits. Baldwin and Saladin exemplify the complexity of leadership, the weight of responsibility, and the profound effects one individual can have on the course of events. Each decision, each battle, each act of courage or patience contributed to a tapestry of history that continues to captivate and instruct. Their legacies endure not only in the annals of medieval chronicles, but in the understanding of what it means to lead, to fight, and to live with honor in the face of overwhelming challenges. In reflecting upon Baldwin IV and Saladin, we see that history is never a matter of simple victories or defeats. It is a story of human resilience, intellect, morality, and the struggle to balance ambition with ethics, strength with wisdom, and power with responsibility. Their intertwined destinies, battles, and mutual respect illuminate the profound complexities of leadership and the enduring impact of human courage. Baldwin IV's strategic brilliance, moral fortitude, and inspirational leadership delayed the fall of Jerusalem, while Saladin's patience, discipline, and ethical conduct ensured that his ultimate triumph was remembered as both decisive and honorable. Thus, the tale of Baldwin IV and Saladin is not merely one of war, conquest, or political maneuvering. It is a story of human determination, of minds and hearts tested under extreme conditions, of strategy, morality, and vision converging on the stage of history. Their story teaches that true leadership requires courage in the face of weakness, patience in the face of adversity, and wisdom in the face of complexity. It is a saga that resonates across centuries, reminding us that even in the harshest trials, intellect, honor, and moral courage can shape the destiny of nations and define the enduring legacy of extraordinary individuals.